Good morning, it's Jeremy. It's Monday, July the 20th. I'm just down at Harbourfront looking out into Lake Ontario. This morning what we're going to do is we're going to look at receiving AIS signals, automatic identification signals from boats, using a simple RTL-SDR stick. So here's my setup here. I've got my laptop there, of course with my Starbucks coffee, and there's the RTL-SDR. It's connected by a USB cable to a Type-C port on the laptop. And what I'm using for an antenna is I'm just using a simple vertical antenna here consisting of some alligator clips that just locked in the tree there. And on the PC right now I've got OpenCPN. So what we do is we're going to use AIS Decoder 2 software, and that works in a command prompt. So you have to get into the command prompt, locate the directory and run a command which sets up the gain of the receiver, and you have to use SDR sharp or an equivalent program to determine the frequency shift. The RTL-SDR is off frequency slightly. In my particular case it's 27 parts per million. So you have to input that on the command line as well. And then your decoded AIS signals appear on OpenCPN. Okay, so today we're going to look at receiving AIS signals using AIS Decoder 2. Now, from the RTL-SDR blog, from that particular article about AIS, you can find a link to download the AIS Deco 2 decoder. What I've done is I've located that folder in the C drive. So you need to have it in the C drive very close to the root, otherwise you'll have a hard time accessing it. So let's go into the command prompt and you'll see what I mean. So there's command prompt. Okay, so if you don't have it close to C, you're going to have to go and look for it. So what I've done is I've located it right in the C folder. So all I have to do is cd AIS Deco 2 star. That brings me to the correct directory. If I do a dir, you can see the various files. Now what you have to do is open the README file. That's what the README file looks like. Now this is a console program, so what you have to do to set up the RTL-SDR device is you have to input this particular line. So what you're telling it to do is set a particular gain, set a frequency correction, and set a UDP port. The UDP port is so you can send packets to OpenCPN. So what I've done here is I've modified this. I'm going to have my gain at 40.2. Now I've used SDR sharp, we'll see that in a minute, to figure out what my correction is. The RTL-SDR needs to be corrected a little bit because it drifts slightly. So you'll have to go in there and figure out what that is. So in my particular case, it's 27 parts per million. So that's what I'm setting there. And I've set my UDP port up to be 127.001.4151. So what I do is I copy this. Okay. And then I go in here and there we go. So there we go, it's running, and you can see right away that it's getting some AIS signals, okay? So it's starting to receive the signals. Now, we have to open CPN, so let's go and open CPN. There's OpenCPN. Make sure that you set in options under connections, you have to set this thing up. So you have to enable a connection to UDP. There's the network address 127.0.0.1, port 4159. Okay, so you have to set that up as well. Make sure this number is the same as the one on the AIS Deco. Now you can see right now that we're receiving a couple of signals there. If I expand this, there we go. So there's one signal, omnicoastal. Okay, the MMSI number. There's another signal there, and there's another signal there. So looks like we're getting 3 AIS signals being received on OpenCPN. Now I mentioned earlier on to set up the AIS Deco, we had to check on the frequency difference on the RTL-SDR, so let's do that. Okay, so the way we set up the frequency correction is open up SDR Sharp, and that's a open source program to receive from the RTL-SDR. And what we do here is I'm going to calibrate my RTL-SDR based on a known frequency. I'm using Toronto Marine Weather, which is 162.4 megahertz. So I've set it up at 162.4 megahertz. Notice that my receive line here, the red line is right in the center. So if I open up these settings, you see that I have a frequency correction of 27 parts per million. If I change this, for instance, let's put this at 10, then you see that I'm off frequency. So what you have to do is set up for the frequency you want and adjust the frequency correction here till the red line is right in the center of the waveforms. There we go, there's 27 parts per million. So that's how I determined what the setting was to use in AIS Deco.